Big eyes, warm heart, baritone voice, quick wit, and non-stop tales. Describe a man who was loyal, loving, sentimental, entertaining, and at times larger than life. Those eyes were his window to the world. They captured the sights, sounds, and events which, when filtered through his compassion, patriotism, humor, and slightly mischievous thought process, produced his wonderful spellbinding tales. When the pulpit was his, he commanded your respect. He commanded your attention and ignored all surrounding events or consequences. He spared no details. You were a captive audience until that wonderful and unique laugh signaled the conclusion. He was a Pied Piper for fun, a magnet for laughter, and the instigator of songfest, jokes, and tales. We all know more about Spang Dong than this Marine knows about any base anywhere. Hell, I never even heard of the place, nor could I spell it, and now I'm not convinced I wasn't stationed there. Another of Sparky's endless venues for incredible experiences was something called the Hobacks. According to Sparky, this section of the Jackson Hole ski resort provided the finest skiing one could imagine. It was the platform for his 3-year sales pitch to Aspenosium and promised to be the highlight of what he hoped to be our impending trip to Jackson Hole. The length of the run was unrivaled, the beauty unparalleled, the conditions pristine, and the experience one of a lifetime. We could only picture Sparky floating through the fluff with those twinkling eyes and that megawatt smile. We bid, and Aspenosium was off to Jackson and Sparky's famed Hobacks. Since we had no boots on the ground in Jackson, it would require reconnaissance and planning before we could descend on the good folks of Wyoming with our laundry list of unusual requests, all centered on frivolity and an endless supply of booze. Naturally, Sparky, our president and fearless leader, would lead this expedition on the path to guaranteed organization and flawless execution. However, Sparky viewed this summer trip as an opportunity to find fresh folks who had never heard of Spang Dong, Buckley, the Thud, Weasel, Jolly Greens, or the Weapons School, nor did they know the words to all the songs they were about to learn. While Tip and I worked on the details, our very own Pied Piper, with scotch and soda in hand, entertained the masses at the Mange and Moose Saloon. Upon reflection, Sparky was only ensuring Aspenosium a warm welcome when we returned 6 months later, and a warm welcome it was indeed. The day came. We all arrived and the fun commenced. Sparky was in heaven. After years of salesmanship, we were all in Jackson. The weather was perfect. The conquering Pied Piper had returned, and the locals were predictably excellent hosts. Sparky regaled us all with endless tales of family trips and days gone by, with vivid descriptions of each and every run, and colorful depiction of the cast of characters participating. After informing us that a knee injury prevented him from leaving us, he implored us to tackle his Hobacks on Wednesday and pledged a day to remember in this nirvana of fluff and beauty. Once again we bid, and Stormy, T-Bone, and I were off without our fearless leader. We boarded a gondola with countless new best friends and shot to the top to find fluff, beauty, and ideal cold temperatures. Within 10 turns and a bare minimum of our impending 4,100-foot descent behind us, we were in Sparky's famed Hobacks. However, we were without any of our best friends from the gondola. No way out in ever-changing conditions which offered each and every season until we were mired in cement with a mile to go. The climate we had descended into rivaled San Diego. We were dressed like Alaska. We emerged soaking wet, pissed off, worn off, and in search of our fearless leader. Upon finding himself, our request was simple, and I really cleaned this up. Tell us about the frigging Hobacks. Sparky's answer was priceless. Oh, hell, babes, I've never skied them, but Reed told me all about it. Vintage Sparky. Yes, his eyes were Sparky's window to the world, but they worked both ways. And they provided all of us a portal to his big heart and wonderful soul. One never wondered where they stood, and that is a tribute to Sparky's integrity, of which he spoke often and held dear. Chances are that after your first encounter, and I chose that word carefully, you were welcomed into his massive legion of friends, and you had a home for life. My first encounter was from afar, and ironically it came through a story being told in a bar. The bar was the Da Nang Officers Open Mass, or DIM Club. For the uninitiated, that is the Officers Club in the Air Force side of Da Nang Airfield in South Vietnam. This story was being told in the hushed tones of reverence while unveiling the heroic rescue of a legendary fighter pilot that had taken place deep in North Vietnam that very day. This was a story of another valiant, jolly green crew that hung it all out for one of us, and it was a story that will be retold as long as fighter pilots gather. I was at a table with a number of Air Force fighter pilots, and it seemed everyone at that table had a personal interest in the outcome of that mission that far exceeded our normal levels of concern for one another. They spoke of this pilot as they would their best friend, and I wondered, how many best friends could one guy have? A few years later, I understood when I met Sparky for the first time. And in the ensuing 40-plus years, I have been reminded of that night each and every time we have been together. The terms warrior and hero are often employed, especially at times such as this, for reasons we all understand. But in reality, those terms accurately describe very, very few. Today, however, they both apply. Robin Olds told me on one of our road trips to nowhere, Sparky was the bravest man he ever met. And then he proceeded to tell me why. I was reminded of Robin's words and stories from long ago, a couple of months back when reading Talk Me Tale. Sparky's version gives much of the credit to his bear, Major Carlo Lombardo. But Robin's version leaves no doubt about Sparky's willingness not to just be out front, but to drive the tip of the spear and to do everything in his power to ensure the force came home. Yes, he led, protected, and bled with the force. And that devotion to mission accomplishment makes one wonder how many came home to their families, how many came home to become husbands, dads, and grandpas, because of the courage, tenacity, and ingenuity of Barracuda Alpha and Barracuda Bravo. His accomplishments are legendary and recognized by the virtual litany of decorations he wore. But in truth, most medals collect dust in a drawer somewhere. However, the love, respect, and admiration of one's peers is timeless, and one look around this chapel says it all. Sparky was a warrior. He was an American hero. He was, indeed, larger than life. We were truly blessed in so many ways to be Sparky's friends, and the most prominent of those was knowing you, and experiencing your charm, spirit, and great sense of humor. Your priceless one-liners, none of which can be repeated, are audibly etched into the walls of our house. You were the wind beneath his wings, the magic behind that megawatt smile, the love of his life, and together you gave us the miracles that made Sparky's life complete. Reed, Peggy, and their families. Yes, he was known to some as Barracuda, to most as Sparky, and the civilian population as Dell's husband. He was always proudest of being Dell's husband and Reed and Peggy's dad. In closing, I'll borrow a quote from an unknown author. God saw you were getting tired, and a cure was not to be. So he put his arms around you and whispered, "Come to me." With tearful eyes, we watched and saw you pass away. Although we loved you dearly, we could not make you stay. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands at rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us, in this case, he only takes the best. As Sparky would say to all of you, hug one another. Godspeed, old friend, and Semper Fidelis.